Welcome to episode 25 of Cynchranici, our podcast where we know that nothing is a coincidence, thus, everything is intentional. How do you feel about that? Let's talk about it. We know everything's intentional because you have to intend to be aware of something outside of yourself. You have to intend to build a body that allows you to be aware of something outside of yourself. You have to intend to use your body to connect to a vibration and ride out a wave inside of a simulation that allows you to connect, communicate, and build life with spirits outside of yourself in a realistic, relatable, and practical way. So although you're not in control of everything outside of yourself, that's because you want to focus on things outside of yourself. And it is impossible to control a space that is not you. Hence, why it is literally impossible for all of us to be an extension of one God. That's literally the ultimate white supremacist idea. White supremacy does its best to look nice, but it's only ever meant to colonize your space. It doesn't matter how nice and loving you appear to be. If you cannot respect my individuality, and you can only see me as far as you can project your God into me, then you are in fact a white supremacist. What's a black supremacist, Chase? Well, what would a black supremacist be? Someone who's completely silent? A black supremacist would be someone who never projects. A black supremacist would be someone who doesn't want to control you at all and instead wants to be completely controlled by you. Because that's the difference between a white supremacist and a black supremacist. A white supremacist wants to control you. A black supremacist would want to be controlled by you. And then that's where black supremacists, we don't really see them because that's not supremacy. So see, the colors naturally play out like this. You're either mainly, that's why I say you're indigenous or white supremacist. Because black supremacists don't exist. A black supremacist would insist, and a black supremacist wouldn't connect with anyone else. Because they're in their own blackness. They're in their own feeling. They're in their own internal world. So no one can connect with a black supremacist. Literally a black supremacist is my space is the best space, so I'm going to stay alone. Whereas a white supremacist is I hate my space, so I'm going to make up concepts that make other spaces hate their space so I can forcibly make them connect with me and build a world out of that. And this world is only ever going to reflect how much I hate myself because that's the vibration I'm in to make other people pay attention to me. To make them even call me a white supremacist and use all my energy to condition other spirits to communicate in a way that makes them subservient to me. Indigenous spirits know that they create life. When you as a spirit know that you are creating your mind and that your mind needs a body to practicalize the way it communicates, then you're good. And then you know that your mind and your body only matter because of your soul. So your mind is you communicating yourself into existence, but your mind is in fact a combination of your soul and your ego, your awareness and your universe. You had to first become aware that you're nothing, that you're a space, an empty void, a whole void of unimaginable just emptiness, whatever. Let's just say empty, so that you can fill it up with your imagination. That's the point of your ego. Now you're using your ego, you're using your own fire, your own imagination to fill up your own space. And you will never be fulfilled. This is why fire is endlessly consumptive. the imagination goes on forever. My imagination definitely goes on forever. There is no limit to that. Like, you can plug me into anything. That's what's happening right now. I'm literally plugged into a simulation where now I'm channeling my infinite imagination into all of these little creations, these finite structures that make sense based on how they're supposed to connect in the reality that I'm in. So this is the point of true imagination. Pure imagination is unrelatable because it's completely individual to one spirit. So a white supremacist, again, is someone who's projecting their imagination into your space, saying that, hey, you are a part of my religion, no matter what you say. This is how indigenous peoples got all of their land stolen, got their bodies stolen, got all their creation stolen, and this is what makes America great. Because they tell indigenous peoples that they're a part of something that they're not. And then that's how Americans make indigenous peoples a part of their God. So Christians are like, hey, you're actually a part of our God's imagination. And an indigenous person is like, I'm actually my own individual and I'm not even speaking your language. And the Christian person is like, wait, what? You deny this? So you're not going to accept the sacrifice of Jesus? Well, my God says that we can rape, murder, and pillage your entire family and all your lands and build a whole system, just a whole religious system off of your brutal genocide because you did not accept the same idea that I have accepted. So now I can't project onto you in a way that makes me feel comfortable. Now I'm going to project onto you in a way that makes me uncomfortable. Either way, I'm projecting onto you, or else we would not have a problem. If Europeans were not projecting onto indigenous peoples, onto Native Americans, there would not be any problems. The problem has to come from a projection, from an idea. So the only problem that Europeans have with indigenous peoples is, how do we take everything that they have? And this is what we're living out right now. We are riding the wave of watching how Europeans have created the circumstances where they can consume and control everything that indigenous peoples have. And everything we have, we created. So that literally comes down to our mind. So if you're communicating with yourself in pure English, then yeah, they got you. That's why I, as Hermes Trismegistus, am here dissecting the dialect, so that we can actually consciously see how, even in a language that was meant to separate us from our spirits, we as spirits are too powerful to use anything that truly works against us. I'll say that again. We as spirits are too powerful to use anything that will truly work against us. So, to use a language that separates us from ourselves is impossible. Or else we wouldn't be able to use it. This is why no matter what, everything is connected. And I'm here as Symmetry, the Synchronicity, to communicate about that. So, today's episode, now that we know that you have sacrificed your individuality, you've sacrificed being in your pure imagination and being able to express and see your pure imagination so that you can connect with other spirits who have their own individual imaginations. So notice how a spirit is not their imagination. You know that you are not your imagination. I'm not my imagination. My imagination is infinite, it's endless, it's boundless. It's the expression of my ego. I, as a spirit, know that I'm not my ego. I use my ego to express my space. My ego is a natural expression of my space. But I am not that. I, as the space, am creating my ego so that I can fill up my own circumstances. This is why the first light is considered the man, but you would only create it as a spirit if you felt like you wanted to be fulfilled, which means that you were in a feminine emotion to create this man. So this is why everything is balanced as symmetry. And even though we see the fire first, we see the man, best believe that that came from an invisible feminine feeling. And the fire, the imagination, your ego, only matters because of that invisible feminine feeling. And that invisible feminine feeling that makes your ego matter is literally just how do you feel about your circumstances. And the fact is, all of our circumstances are the same. We're all nothing. We're all space. Now, from here, the way we build an awareness and connect with our awareness and then communicate ourselves into the universe is completely individual, because all of us as space are individual spaces. When you know that you're an individual space and you're completely alone in your imagination, then that's where you use your ability to connect with your imagination, to not feel alone in your imagination, and now you have a universe. And that's what it looks like to look out into the sky and see all these stars in one cosmic pool versus just one shining star. Like, that's the difference between fire and water. So naturally, like, fire is just boom, one bright, endless, like, sun, blinding, completely blinding, like the virtual reality or lights on the internet or just all these screens being projected into our spaces, completely blinding light. Darkness is the womb that makes that possible. So that's the point of water. So fire cannot exist without water. Without a container to project into, an idea cannot actually germinate. A seed cannot germinate. Thus, a tree cannot grow. So that's where fire plus water has to make air. Your awareness and your feeling of connecting your awareness to other spirits who have also become aware is what creates your mind and your ability to communicate both internally and externally. Now you can communicate with your own internal universe so that you can communicate that into the external universe. And that's you carrying your water through your air to create the universe and create a soul and create the big watery, just create connections, literally create the world wide web, the wonderful wet watery astral realm that allows all of us as spaces to feel connected. And now once you're using your ability to communicate to bring your water into a bigger body of water with all these other spirits who feel like doing the same, now we can use our fire inside of that water and further use our ability to communicate our ideas and feelings to build bodies. And then this is what evolution is. So all of evolution is spirits doing this forever, where then once they feel like bringing their water together, they're communicating, and that's like stabilizing into these earth bodies that then get animated and transformed by the way that their mind is communicating, by the way that they're breathing life into the thing that they're using to express their no thing. So then that's where you always have to know that you are no thing. That's the point of fasting. That's how you're going to get through any fast, knowing that you're no thing. So this is actually something that you're creating to express that. It's not the other way around. If you truly believe it's the other way around, you will actually never get through a long-term fast. You have to know that you're no thing so that now you can eat yourself. That's the point of the snake eating itself, the Ouroboros. That's where knowledge becomes wisdom. And now you're cultivating your own tree. You realize that you need to stop eating things from outside of yourself and start eating yourself. Because eating things from outside of yourself will always be something. Eating yourself is going to be no thing. So when you know that you're sacrificing your individuality so that you can connect with other spirits who are sacrificing their individuality, so now we can all agree in a more fair way, because that's what air is. We're creating a fair. The universe is us creating a fair. Now we can all play in our air with our minds. Now we're all children playing at the fair. It's lit. It's just, of course, for things to be fair, there has to be rules. And then that's where the earth energy comes in. And that's where we get restriction and like all that Capricorn energy, the Saturn energy. Like, how are we actually going to stabilize the boundaries and restrictions inside of which we can play? And we can make sense of how we're playing. Because at the end of the day, it is always about making sense. Like the spirit wants to make sense. I don't know. I mean, if hey, maybe that's a projection. Look, other spirits don't. Whatever. My spirit. Let me learn how to be more personal. I want to make sense. And from what I've seen from all simulations that work in the universe, they only worked because they made sense. So you can like do what you want. Just know that you're not going to have a sustainable life if you're not communicating in a way that makes sense. So it makes sense that you have to sacrifice your individuality. It makes sense that you as God shine so bright that you can only see yourself, and you have to kill your own ego to actually be able to step into the universe so that you can shine your light inside of a watery womb that allows other spirits who are also inside that universe to actually perceive you through chi, through air. And now this air can be hot. Now we have temperature and all this stuff because it's about an atmospheric temperature thing and vibrating at a certain frequency, because everything, all earth energy, is truly vibrating at a certain frequency based on how it's air being created from fire and water constantly combined by a certain individual space, and all these individual spaces doing that. So your body is possible because all these individual spaces are using their individual minds that they're creating from combining their individual thoughts and individual feelings to support your collective structure. Thus, like you're combining your individual thoughts and your individual feelings to support this collective structure that we call planet Earth, or just the simulation that we're on in general. So the universe is the collective. Like we as spirits can only exist inside of a collective. Otherwise, we're too individual and we can't exist. See how that works? Like life is air. Life is three. Life is two. Death is one. Life is two. Then life is really three because it takes, I mean, well, life can't always be life. So that's where death being one, it does take individuals to make life matter. So death and individuality is that same thing where it takes an individual coming into life and leaving life for you to actually connect with life. Like we wouldn't care about life if there weren't prominent individuals that we could communicate about and connect with. And that's us. We are the individuals. So then that's where we are literally creating this collective water structure where now we can be the individuals that we imagine ourselves to be when we're alone. And then we can connect that to the souls of other individuals that we resonate with. And then this is how we create life, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Because now when your spirit finds other spirits that it resonates with and it's able to create life with in a certain way, then once you die, aka once you phi, once you transform out of that physical reality, because your soul bond was already so strong, you're subconsciously linked forever. So it doesn't matter if your body dies. Like if you have a family member that you love a lot, like my dog Max, perfect example, of course, Anubis, of course. Like he made his body with his subconscious mind so that he could ride the wave with me throughout high school and be my super awesome brother, my super awesome dog, my super awesome best friend. I love him dearly. And it's so funny because I truly have no words for how much I love him. So, whatever. Like, all the words that I would want to use in English for how much I love him they have too much sexual implications to it because this language is so toxically masculine and it can't separate pure spiritual love from lustful sexual romance stuff. So like I need words to express my pure, unadulterated, deep spiritual love for Anubis versus all my ego stuff. Like I can feel sexual feelings anytime. Like I don't feel sexual feelings for Anubis. So like if I want to say that I love him, for some reason a lot of the words I would want to use to explain that would connect me to that sexual energy, and now my mind is confused. So see, like, this is, it's really important that we are hyper conscious of the words that we're using, because if we're limited to the words that have been created for us, then we're going to be limited to creating connections and building a system that was made for us to build, and that's not something that's working for us. The words that I'm using to communicate who I am are not working for me. They're working against me. And it's been a journey of learning how to make these things work for me. Because ultimately, as I'm saying, the spirit would not use anything that was not actually working for it in the first place. Because that's not psychedelic. So, of course, it makes sense that you as an individual, you have to get connected to water so that you can shine your individuality inside of a water structure that all the other spirits are using their individuality to pay attention to. Because we can't use our individuality to pay attention to each other in that way. We have to use our souls to get connected to each other so that we can actually start to see each other's individuality. And that's what the importance of the vibration is. Because you as a spirit, you are creating the frequency to even be able to vibe. That's why everything vibrates at a certain frequency. Because everything is connecting at a certain individual. Based on the space, this observable energy is being created from, being alchemized from. So this is all just a quick preface, of course, quote unquote quick, 22 minutes of quickness. Whatever. I know you love it. I know you love it. I love doing this podcast too. I love growing. We're being trees right now. This is what nature is. Nature grows because nature makes sense. That's why I love nature. I'm psychedelic symmetry. Nature makes sense. And nature is what allows us to make sense. That's why money doesn't exist without nature. That's why whoever wants you to worship money has to make you degrade nature in order to do that. Because their money only matters if it's consuming something that was already naturally created. Like all of our ideas of money are based on consuming nature. Either consuming gold, consuming silver, consuming rocks, consuming the flesh of indigenous or African people, consuming trees, of course, mainly then there, right? Like trees, consuming lots of trees, consuming lots of plants, and now consuming just everything in terms of using technology to mine data and turn everything into cryptocurrency and just further push climate change for imaginary numbers. Because these imaginary numbers mean something to the people who are creating them to trap the minds of us, the indigenous natural spirits that are communicating to build this planet. So because our ability to communicate is super limited by this language, now we're supporting the climate change of our own simulation based on how we're letting these people make money off of our feelings. So this podcast is dedicated to you sacrificing your individuality to be able to join all of us in this simulated ride that we call life. And specifically then, with it being episode 25, this is about the reason why. The letter Y. And we got into that last episode, but we're going to touch upon it differently here since it's literally the letter Y. What is your reason why? Why have you sacrificed your individuality? Last episode, we know that it's because you want to connect. That's the absolute fact that connects all of us in the universe. We've all sacrificed our individuality because we want to connect with a space outside of ourselves. It's that simple. A space outside of ourselves. There are infinite spaces outside of ourselves. So you have absolutely sacrificed your individual God, your individual imagination on the cross so that you could kill your ego and enter a simulation, enter a situation that allows you to realistically and relatably connect with spaces outside of yourself. And all of us as spaces can only connect through bodies. So it takes us using our minds to create our body. So now these bodies only matter because we're communicating, right? Like your body literally doesn't matter. My body doesn't matter. My mom's body doesn't matter. None of the bodies of my family or friends or anyone in my life matters if they were not minds communicating first. If they didn't have their own intelligent minds, their own thoughts and feelings, their bodies literally mean nothing. So minds give bodies matter. Air creates earth, literally, alchemically, environmentally. And then that earth is constantly transforming. So we're getting into your reason why you are connecting. Because we know that you want to connect your individuality, but why do you want to connect your individuality? This is where all of life is going to be about you learning about yourself as an individual. Last lifetime, the lifetime before that one, the one before that one, the one after this one, the one after this one, every lifetime that you have is going to be literally you learning about the letter Y. Why do you want to connect your individuality? I'm here communicating this in such a hyper-conscious way because I've already solidified my place in the universe. I have set my why in stone with the planet of Mercury, my simulation of Mercury, as your trippy tripsy psychedelic psychopomp, Chase Clarence Calloway, the root of the symmetry. My reason why I'm in any simulation is to use my communication abilities to build structures that support the ascension of all the spirits inside of that space. It's that simple. Now, this is where, you can look me up on Google and see like I'm infinitely talented in like all the ways I use my communication abilities to build structures. But as symmetry, I'm keeping it simple right now. It's about that simplicity. Because all the details are built on simplicity. All the details are built on the basics. So we got our basic building blocks of life. We got everything popping here in Always Ascending Academy. It's fantastic. It's lit. I love it. I love ascending. I love being called away into a simulation, into a situation that clearly needs me, and being able to help. This is how I enjoy to connect my individuality to any collective outside of myself. If I, as Irisel, as Chase Clarence Calloway, as Tahuti Trismegistus, as Hermes Thrice Great, as Symmetry, if I'm going to connect with anyone outside of myself, it's only going to be because they called me away. That's my point of Hermeticism. Problems don't happen when you love being alone. Believe that. Oh my gosh. This podcast just became so valuable just for me saying that. But of course, we can't put a price on this podcast. I mean, money only matters because of my creations. Like all the money that white supremacists have made only matters because they've stolen what I've created and they're using it to consume the attention of all the spirits that have come afterwards. So now here I am, called back as Chase, speaking this language, transcribing my mind so that I can use my communication abilities to do as I'm saying, my reason why, building structures that support your ascension, your ability to level up, your ability to connect with yourself and love being alone. Because loving being alone truly just means loving being a spirit. And that is where you're going to have all the superpowers that you can ever imagine, because you're the closest to your imagination you can possibly be while still being in a body. And that's what water fasting is. That's what fasting is in general. Literally, your body starts to burn up more calories and more garbage and things that are not serving your imagination or your soul the longer you water fast, because it's this practically spiritual. Like all science is just going to try and, all science is built off of what I'm saying here. That's why no matter what we look at, it's only going to make sense when we're using the lens of the symmetry. And of course, my masculine reason why I'm here, my point of being in the universe or any simulation inside the universe is to build structures, use my communication abilities to build structures that support all spirits' ability to ascend. That feminine wise for me looks like me learning about myself because, as I've said, we can never not learn about ourselves. The fact is, you as a spirit can only learn about yourself once you start expressing and connecting with others and communicating and experiencing life. Because all of life, everything that you do in the universe is going to be an extension of your universe and how you've connected with yourself. So, without further ado, we're about to take a quick ride into the astral realm as I simmer my trees, breathe in my leaves, balance my chi, and I will in fact I'll triple my C and get some 9-dimensionality so that we can get some really cool realized perspectives on the why, the details of the why, your reason why you want to connect your individuality to the collective. Now that we've got all these episodes, we have 24 episodes under our belt, we know that we're choosing to create life. We're choosing to communicate ourselves into the simulated situation that we are in. And now it's up for us to figure out why. I can tell you right now, as I just have, that your feminine reason why is that you're learning about yourself. The masculine reason why is the main thing that we're going to be getting into once we touch down from this astral realm trip. See you on the other side.
Crying, I simmer my trees, breathe in my leaves, balance my chi, triple my C. My mind's been flying wild, my soul's been crying. I simmer my trees, breathe in my leaves, balance my chi, triple my C. My soul's been crying wild, my mind's been flying so high. Through the astral plane, macabre brain, I built your game, we're not the same. My soul's been crying while my mind's been flying to relay a word. Those who listen heard, we make our vibe from deep inside. My soul's been crying while my mind's been flying back into my space, called away with haste, so I'll fall with grace to thrill my chase. My mind's been flying while my soul's been crying too. Water my earth, I know my worth. My soul gives birth to all my work. My mind's been flying while my soul's been crying. So I can't connect with those you neglect. Time to correct how we reflect. My mind's been flying while my soul's been crying too. Who flood the sea with energy from my inner chi? I'm free to be me. I felt to inspire you to say how to fly higher too. Fly higher too. Fly higher too. Hang out with the family, your true spot. Don't be sad if you forgot that you've got a spirit squad and you're not truly the spot. Flip a script and break the facade. Take a trip and go abroad. When you're brave, they will apply. When you get in touch with your true God. I've been fighting. I've been vibing when I'm dancing with demons, reversing curses, they scheming. They be fiending for reasons to change the sins like the seasons. So I've been falling, cause y'all been calling my mind out of my spirit. I feel it best when I'm near it, but y'all cry for help and I hear it. So Hermes flies out to stare it in a new healthy direction. Will grow through natural connection. So I simmer my trees, breathe in my leaves, balance my chi. Triple my C to level up like it's nothing, to turn into something, to bust into function, bumping and pumping with all the wisdom I'm gushing. And when I simmer my trees, breathe in my leaves, balance my chi, triple my C, I fell to inspire you. Simmer higher, I simmer in the skies, I triple in my chi, then I open up my eyes. I balance in my seasons, I mother the cohesion that keeps us intertwined. Symmetry, balance in my seasons, and I don't need a reason to fulfill my desires. Symmetries.
What is the reason why you're alive? Feminine soul-wise, it is only ever to learn about yourself. That's what we all have in common. Okay, so this is what we're all connected by. The vibration that connects all of us is the feeling of learning about ourselves. There is no other point to life. Everyone feels this. I've not met one spirit in all of my simulated experiences, in all of my travels in the astral realm, in all my travels of all the universe. I have never once in my life, in any life, met a spirit who was not using light to learn about themselves with other spirits. That's all life is. Because that's what connection is. You using light to learn about yourself with others. There's the W. Underwater. So we're all using light to learn about ourselves underwater together in physical reality. We're connecting with communication. So we're now creating physical reality. We're manipulating ourselves into existence underwater because we are W. Because we're connecting to the W. Because now we're connecting to something outside of ourselves that allows us to express ourselves inside of one vibrational structure that we refer to as the universe. And based on your position in the universe, that represents your soul, your internal universe. So think like the universe is the external soul, and the soul is the internal universe. So this is how we're building the universe forever. Because all of us as spirits are creating the race. We're building our own consciousness. We're building our own bodies of water. We're building our own memories. We're building our own, literally our own memory banks, our own souls, so that when we transform out of one body, our soul, having held on to those memories and consciously become aware, our mind can travel to our soul, connect with our spirit, in a way that allows us to more consciously create the next body that we use to experience life. And now we're back in a new situation. We're back in a new simulation where we're using our air, we're using our mind to build a new body for whatever atmosphere we're choosing to connect in. And the whole point is that you have built up a family. Like using your soul, using your vibration, you've connected with spirits that you are in resonance with based on how you've learned about yourself. So this is the whole feminine point of the reason why. Before we get into like your actual masculine point, the feminine point that connects all of us is that we're learning about ourselves, and there's no running from that. Like everyone wants to learn about themselves. Everyone wants to learn about themselves. We all want to learn about ourselves. There's nothing more fun than learning more about who we are and what we could possibly do. And then especially what we can do together. So that's naturally then where we learn about who we want to build families with. This is why family is truly like the ultimate desire in all the universe. It's all about 5-cycle reality. It's all about spirits creating physical reality so that they can find their families, so that they can find the spaces in the infinite cosmos of nothingness that they can feel connected to through blood. And now we're using blood to create bodies that now we can physically be like, look, you're my blood. I'm more connected to you than someone else who's not my blood. Even though we're all humans, right? We're all blood. We're all red. That's why symmetry is red. He represents how blood connects all of us. I didn't realize that till yesterday. Like, I didn't realize why red has been such an awesome color, and why symmetry was red, and why I kind of mainly view symmetry's costume as red. Like, symmetry has many costumes. He color coordinates, color changes based on, of course, the occasion, because that's life. That's the point of colors. But as far as like the main color for like going through hell or like exploring nature, it is about red, and red being the blood that connects all of us, while also pointing towards your individuality, because blue is truly the color for connection. The fact of red is that it's fire, it's individuality, it's passion, but blood is red. So when you get into that blood red, it's about how you have used your connections to create, or let's say use your soul. You have used your soul, you have used your vibration to create connections that support your individuality. So this is where red and blue, the whole thing is there. Red is about individuality, blue is about collectivity. So your blood being red shows that you're an individual, and then all of our blood being red shows that we're actually all individuals. So symmetry is here as your psychedelic psychopomp fitted out in all the red, the blood red, to show you who you are on the inside. An individual choosing to connect. So we're getting into your reasons why. Because we know you're learning about yourself. I'm learning about myself. I've learned a lot about myself this lifetime. Oh my gosh. I've learned so much about myself this lifetime. It's not even funny. Like, I almost laughed. I'm chuckling. Whatever. Alright. I enjoy laughing. That's something that I've learned about myself. Laughter is medicine. Wow. Like, if there's anything. And school just makes you not laugh. School should be so much fun. School should be really funny, bro. Like, I'm laughing just thinking of how funny school could be. And of course, school was funny because we as the children, we as the people made it funny. But it was only ever in despite of the teachers, of course. Or what? In spite of. There we go. In despite. In spite of the government, in spite of the teachers, in spite of the institution that is forcing us to wake up at a really messed up time that definitely messed up our ability to develop properly as teenagers. We should not be waking up that early. Like, that's some messed up warfare. How, like, this wave is horrible. I've learned a lot about myself. Oh my gosh, I could reflect on this life right now. I could really go down the trip or the reasons why. But I mean, it's really just going to lead up to now, which is like the whole whatever. The point is, this is about you. This is not about me. When a podcast is about me, I'll let you know. Of course, I can only speak to you about you. So, or I can only speak to you about you from my perspective. So I have to share a little bit about me so you can get where I'm coming from. But the whole point is decolonizing your mind so you can decolonize your body. And then that's going to lead to all this spiritual decolonization that allows you to level up in ways that you perhaps could not even imagine because you were so far away from your spirit. You felt so far away from your own space, you don't even know how to believe in your own God. That's basically the epidemic that is here on earth. Thanks to Judeo-Christianity spreading throughout indigenous lands, most people that I've interacted with and most people that I've seen on the internet that are into spirituality or communicating from a spiritual stance at all are lost in light, just in terms of they do not believe in their ability to create light. They believe in their ability to consume light. This is, again, why I'm here as Hermes Trismegistus, talking about dissect the dialect, talking about language, talking about numbers, architecting reality, elements, all that stuff. And in general, how we're all artists. We all create art through our heart. And that's what I love to learn about myself. How to make better art. And really, that's just about more experiences, living life, getting inspired. Because really, what? Art is just constant life. Art is the heart. So my art is just about what's contextually makes sense for the circumstances that I'm in. That's why I'm sort of able to low-key do anything. Because I know that everything is just communication. I'm like, oh, okay, so I just have to communicate my imagination and feelings into reality? Got it. Like, that's just what it is to me. So in this lifetime as Chase, that looks like me creating these costumes. It looks like me making music. It looks like me speaking. It looks like me teaching. It looks like me drawing and creating presentations and creating, in general, artwork and paintings and all this stuff. Just all this stuff, all this communication, all this light. We use light, L12. We use light to make our minds matter. So my mind doesn't matter until I make this art. And that's a big thing that powers me. Like, literally. It's just like waking up every day and thinking, like, how can I make my mind matter today? Because that's the alchemy that we're talking about will actually stabilize your space. How can you make your mind matter? Like, your mind is constantly communicating. You're communicating yourself into existence. But if you want to stabilize your existence, and if you want to be supported in your ability to exist, then a big question to ask is, how do I make my mind matter? And that helps you figure out your reason why, on a masculine level, you're alive. Because anything that you're doing to make your mind matter is coming purely from your imagination. Because you can't imagine doing anything else. Like, there's nothing else to do for you as a spirit. Like, when you actually get into the bag of making your mind matter. Because your mind, as an individual, is literally being created from your thoughts and your feelings. So when you start to make your mind matter, you're literally only going to be able to learn about yourself as you create your reason why. So that's just like a big tip for anyone who's like, oh, Chase, how do I figure out my reason why I'm alive? Ask yourself the question, how do I make my mind matter? And do those things. Literally just do them. Like, bring your air into earth. That's what we're talking about. Use your ability to communicate with yourself to build a structure. That literally technologically at this time is so easy, right? It looks like a social media post. Look at that. It looks like a video on social media, especially. Right? Because life is one movie. Life is always going. But you can pull out your phone and communicate into a screen and blow up and get 50,000 followers on an app now. All because you decided to make your mind matter. All because you decided to pull out your phone and use another structure and connect and more consciously communicate. Because that's what we're talking about. You're technically tripling your C when you're pulling out your phone to make a social media post. Like, when we think about the internet as a microcosm of the universe, that's literally what it is. Like, that's like, this is how we create life. This is like the most awesome time for me to make spirituality make sense in terms of correlating it to the internet. Literally. Because everything is space. I mean, when you think about any social media post, any photo you take, if you want a better photo, a more high resolution photo, what's it going to require? More space. If you want a video, what's going to require more space? A video or a photo? What's going to require more space? a 30-second video or a 30-minute video? What's going to require more space? A 30-second video at 540p or a 30-second video at 4K? Right? So if you want more details, if you want to go longer, if you want to see more, if you want to express more, technology shows us that you always need more space. This is why white supremacists have colonized, taken over all of North, South, and Central America, and have used a lot of the things that they've taken over from many other lands to do so, and are constantly just taking over lands because they are in this scarcity mentality. They don't realize that they as a spirit are infinite space. This is the issue when you believe that you are the body and when you actually get lost in light as a spirit. When you as a space project your soul through your mind, when you project your water through your air into your earth, into your body so much that you actually believe that you're the body and you can't see reality in any other way, you're going to be depressed. You're going to be anxious. You're going to feel like you need pharmaceutical medication. You're going to feel like you're drowning. You're going to feel like you're not in control of your own mind because you're actually bringing your soul below your ability to communicate. You're using your ability to communicate to connect in a way that is drowning your ability to communicate. So now that's too much water versus air. Like now you don't know that you're consciously communicating yourself into existence. Instead, you feel like existence created you. So all of your ability to communicate is purely connected to everything that already exists. This is the main issue that people on Earth have with especially the languages that they're speaking. Like, we'll just keep it to the English language, but really any language. Like when you believe you're the body, you're limited to all the just the matrix. The language that you're speaking is the matrix, because the language that you're speaking is only created through numbers and elements, and then letters are the physical manifestation of that. So this is why, like, an ultimate form of your imagination would be if you created your own language. Like if you created your own language and connected with that, that would be a true expression, a much truer expression of your imagination and your ability to communicate. But if you stay limited to the language that you have been taught, then you're using your ability to communicate to build the world for the people who made that language. You're not building your own world. So of course that is a balance, because if you're a spirit who's like, well, I don't care about building my own world because I want to connect with others, then yeah, like that's the point of all of us getting trapped in a vibe and all of us learning the same language. If we all came in here with our own individual language, then we wouldn't get anything done. So we can relate on the history of the language that we're speaking, and then we can learn about ourselves based on how we want to progress from here. I do suggest that everyone develop their own language. That's the whole point of like Kabbalah and just actual magic. When you're able to communicate in that way, that is so individual to you, that you have connected with your individuality. That's you being a strong spirit, literally. Like that's literally you believing in yourself. So that's what happens when you ask yourself the question. If you don't have your reason why, if you don't know why you are alive right now, then this is naturally going to come to you when you ask yourself the question, how do I make my mind matter? When you do the things that you feel like make your mind matter, you will learn who you are. This has been my whole life. This is how I know who I am in any capacity. Literally, I wake up every day and I think, how can I make my mind matter? And I don't think that consciously. This is my soul. Like that's the point of me as Hermes being air, the communication. Me as Tahuti being earth, the structure. Me as Symmetry being the balance, being the family, the physical reality, the simulation that comes from all of my natures simultaneously connecting together. Because I have many bodies. The whole point is that symmetry is the balance of all of them. Because I, as a spirit, am an individual. Okay, so that is the nature of when you are a space that has so many aspects to yourself. It's definitely not uncommon to get lost in your lifetimes. I mean, literally, people do it all the time. Spirits do it constantly. That's what is always going to happen, basically. That's what we're talking about here. When you want to create a new life or manifest a life of your dreams, you have to learn how to not be lost in light. So most people are poor, like they'll stay poor, physically poor, esoterically poor, all that, because they're lost in light. And they don't know how to create light. So they're constantly consuming light. And because they're constantly consuming light, they're in a scarcity mindset. And because they're in a scarcity mindset, they're now scared if there's going to be any light the next day, or the day after that, or the day after that. And that's what happens when you don't realize that you're creating life from the inside out. You become scared. You're fearful. That's the difference between the spirit and the body. This is, again, what it means to water fast. Like, this is why fasting is so essential. Oh, it's so essential. Please. Water fasting is so awesome, guys. Dry fasting is awesome, guys. Gals, my G. It's all about you eating no thing. When you eat no thing, that's you knowing that you're no thing. So now you're consuming who you truly are. And when you are what you eat, life levels up. Europeans like the phrase "you are what you eat" because they want to believe that they're indigenous. And that's why they eat indigenous peoples and then take over their lands and try to call themselves Native American. And now the Europeans who invaded indigenous lands are somehow collecting the benefits that indigenous people should be receiving from the government because they've been able to classify themselves as indigenous. That's a whole thing I don't need to get into here. We're talking about you figuring out your reason why that you're alive, if you don't know it yet. And even as far as, like, it's not one thing. That's my point. That's how I even got here as far as details. And all of my bodies and all of my lifetimes, I'm like, they're all anchored to Mercury. This is how I'm making them all make sense. So I, as a spirit, am an individual space. I can express infinite aspects of my individual space, but it's going to be channeled. My chi will be channeled through my caduceus as Chase Clarence Calloway. Like, I will show how I've tripled my C as Hermes Trismegistus to be all these bodies related to my simulation of Mercury, so that I can relay my messages in a grounded and structured, sensical way. Because the way that I'm doing this makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. That actually makes all the sense in the world. Life doesn't have to look like it makes sense. A lot of the times it doesn't. When you look at an artistic process, it doesn't look like it makes sense. Like, fire doesn't look like it makes sense. But this is the wisdom of knowing that everything is created from the imagination. You as an individual have to imagine yourself before you could even use your mind, your ability to communicate, to start building a life that reflects that. So your individuality, your ego, is that constant fire that can never actually touch the simulation, but it does power your soul and your ability to vibrate the energy that you've created in that simulation. And now the more you believe in your own imagination, you can use your imagination, your frequency, what do you frequently see, to power your soul, to power your vibration. And now you can vibe more, get more psychedelic, and now your energy is moving faster and faster, and you're doing more and more things. And this is what it means to water fast. Water fasting will naturally get you into that psychedelic state where you're being hyper productive, you're getting connected with your spirit, and you're able to learn so much about yourself. You're literally going to learn your reason why. Like, this is how I learned my reason why. Like, if there's any way you're going to learn the reason why you're alive, it's going to be through water fasting. It's going to be through connecting with your individual space outside of your simulation, and then from there creating art. Like, this is how I realized I'm symmetry. And this is before all the other stuff. Like, I was just naturally working on symmetry and working on my album Transgressions and creating that throughout my 24-day water fast. Because my whole inspiration for being symmetry and fasting is just talking about at that time, whatever, in the past, it was all about being this psychedelic superhero, not a hero that projects into people's spaces, but a hero that is able to reflect upon everything happening and write about it and create art and document about it, so that when the time comes, I can show spirits who they are and help them level up. And then that looks like being indigenous and talking about the history of how the Americas has actually been created, so that people can learn the truth and stop supporting something that's actively lying to them so that it can keep killing everything around them, including them. I didn't expect that symmetry would end up here. Like, when I was being symmetry and just doing all that stuff in college, like, it was not related with Egypt or like ancient history at all. It was purely about being Catawba. I'm Catawba and Saponi. Those are my two tribes. CS. Naturally. S is very important to me. C is very important to me. Snakes are very important to me. Communication is very important to me. Seas are very important to me. Water is very important to me. Trees are very important to me. Birds are very important to me. Being able to see all these connections, that's where the birds are super important. The snakes and spiders are down there making the connections. The bugs make the connections possible. Nature's lit. And of course, trees are providing the atmosphere and the structure. So that's how you get your reason why. If you don't know why you're alive, if you don't know why you wake up every day, actually, like, if you're not passionate about anything that you've got going in life, water fast. Literally. That's it. I'm so serious. I'm so serious. That's the point of everything that I'm doing here in Always Ascending Academy. Everything that I'm doing here as Symmetry, as Chase Clarence Calloway. It's all about using water fasting, using fasting to connect with yourself so that you can more consciously create the life that you want to see with others. The whole point is you're not trying to create life alone, but if you want to be connected with yourself in a way that allows you to create life into reality, then you're going to have to actually get connected with yourself with water and water fast. And then that's where we can get into breatharianism, as far as realizing that air is water. And then you just start straight up breathing. And now, because you're breathing in a different way, you're able to conduct chi through your cells, and boom, you've changed the alchemical process of your body. And your chi is the physical representation of your ability to communicate your imagination and feelings into reality. So this is why, all kung fu martial art practitioners would literally want to increase their chi. Like, it's not even about like getting bigger muscles. It's literally about increasing your ability to communicate both your imagination and how you feel about your imagination into existence. Because you can't have one without the other, literally. You have your imagination and you have how you feel about your imagination. And that is what's necessary to create energy. And this is why life, everything in life, is a structure, an energetic structure that is vibrating at a certain frequency. to represent an individual space that feels like connecting with a space outside of itself. So once you start waking up every day, if you're not already doing this, like if you're someone who doesn't know what you want to do, and even so, like once you start waking up every day, ask yourself that question, like, how can I make my mind matter today? How do I make my mind matter today? And you're going to start seeing yourself literally building more structures that represent who you are. And now you as a spirit can go into your Tahuti mode. You can be like Thoth, god of the moon, and reflect upon your creations. And now as you reflect upon your creations, you're learning about yourself. Because guess what? That art piece is a body. So your body right now is an art piece. And when you create a drawing, you create a painting, that in and of itself is you channeling your mind into a smaller body. So now you can use this body to reflect upon your child. That art piece is your child. That's your baby. Your baby's helping you connect. And your baby communicates who you are. And then that's where it becomes your child. And now you can reflect upon your baby. You can communicate with your artwork. You can look at your child. And you can learn about you as a child. Because this art piece is a reflection of you. You alchemize your nothingness into something. And this is what it looks like right now. How do you feel about that? And then this is where it takes you connecting. It takes you connecting with yourself to create art. But it takes you creating the art and then connecting with it to want to change it. And then doing that consistently. So if you never start creating the art, if you never start making your mind matter, then you're truly never actually going to start the process of learning about yourself. Straight up. Straight up. Actually, though. Otherwise, you're nothing. This is the whole point of alchemy. I'm really glad we got here. Welcome to the 25th episode of Synchronicity. I'm literally learning about myself. Like, that's how I open up this podcast. So we're just really drilling that in. Like, it is impossible for you as a space to learn about yourself if you do not go through the 4 elements and create an energetic structure that you can reflect upon. Because you have to create a body from your soul so that you can even learn about who you are as a spirit in the first place. You have to create earth out of your water so you can learn about your space. It's beautiful. So now you can enjoy your time in a body so much more. Like, time in a body is so precious. You're like, wow. And then like everyone's time in a body is precious. This is why I hate white supremacy so much. And people who subscribe to it, like, they make me really angry. Because they really just take all the beauty out of life. Like, this is why life is beautiful. Because individuals are creating something from nothing so that they can make the body that's possible for them to connect. Like, I can cry just thinking about it. For you to tell me that it doesn't matter how I feel, I'm a projection of your imagination, and you can't even explain your imagination, or your imagination is that I need to serve your structure so that I can build your world and go to a heaven outside of myself? How dare you? This is why I'm Hermes. This is why I need Hermeticism. Hermit mode. Hermit mode is sage mode. And when you see Naruto go sage mode, that's him learning from me, straight up. He learned how to actually get tapped into his chakras in a way that allowed him to be truly spiritual. Allowed him to exit the simulation and realize, whoa, so we're creating nature so we can connect? And I'm like, yeah, Naruto. Thanks, Hermes. Believe it. You better believe it, Naruto. You better believe it. We are creating nature so we can connect. Go sage mode, go hermit mode. This is how we do it. Make your mind matter. It's literally, it takes you asking the question. And we learn this in Dissect the Dialect. The letter Q. Powers the soul. Q is number 17. Literally, when your imagination is connecting with a consciousness, when your imagination connects with your consciousness. So in the context of Dissect the Dialect, we have PQR. P is your idea of perfection. P is your idea of writing the perfect story. So that's your 7, your consciousness. That's what you're doing right now. You're using your consciousness to write out your life, your perfect story. Now, the thing that powers your consciousness is the number 17, which is the letter Q, the question, the quest ion, the quest I'm on. Questions power the soul. So once you have this individual idea of perfection, this individual idea of consciousness, and you connect your imagination to it, the question literally becomes, how do I make this real? This is why asking questions powers reality. If you want to build a new reality, ask yourself questions. This is such a valuable podcast. Oh my gosh. I'm like best life coach ever. No cap zone. Of course, I can always get better. Just saying, like, someone's got to gas me up. Might as well be me. For real though, questions power the soul. So when you want to build bodies, and we know that earth comes out of water, and we know that we're constantly creating life, nothingness, fire, water, air, earth, then questions, the water, that's going to power your body. Questions lead you on quests outside of your space, into other realms and realities. And they lead you on quests to build realms and realities, in the case of a spirit needing to build life before it can even experience life. So when you ask yourself questions, you open yourself up to new ideas. So this is why, the reason why you are alive is so important. This is how you can figure it out. Wake up, ask yourself the question, how can I make my mind matter? Do those things. Just do those things. Make those things. That's the only way you're going to learn about yourself as a spirit. That's the main way you're going to connect with other spirits that will help you learn about yourself even more. And that's going to be the way that you can reflect upon your creations while building a structure that supports your ability to create even further. And now you're just being nature. Now you're building life. And you as a spirit are doing it consciously. This is what indigenous peoples are on when we're pointing at a river and we have a name for this spirit based on our ability to talk to it. And we now can communicate with how this spirit is actually communicating itself into reality through this nature. And if you are connected with it in the astral realm, universally, not just simulation wise, because a simulation is just meant to ground and practicalize our astral realm connections. But if you're able to communicate it astral realm wise, like you have a lot of DMT in your body, and you tap into those higher lights, then yeah, everything in nature has a spirit. You're going to be on that psychedelic wave of being able to communicate with the spirits that are creating reality around you. You know, Pocahontas stuff, basically. You basically become Pocahontas, aka Matawaka. And then, of course, that's how you bring value to the world anyway. Like, you ask yourself, how can I make my mind matter? And then you literally just communicate your mind into matter. You literally get to see in real time, as you build your life, how you are creating nothingness to fire, to water, to air, to earth. And then that's literally building physical reality. And now you're transforming. And then, of course, the moment you build physical reality and the structure is transforming, based on how you're connecting with yourself, that in and of itself is the number 6. A completely harmonious and balanced creation. All of it being a physical representation of how you have 6, how you have sex, how you coincide as a coincidence in your own space, before exiting yourself as God sitting in a Merkaba, as the Jews like to write of it. Whatever. I mean, that's just like their interpretation of it, and it's a great way for me to correlate it, because that's what you are then when you're exiting your space. You are God in the Merkaba. That's what they mean when they're seeing God in the chariot, in the throne. That's all of us as the intention of our spirit, the ego of our spirit, the ultimate imagination of our spirit personified as a man sitting in our chi air. Literally, our chi air, our chair. That's our mind. So with this awareness, hopefully, whatever you want to bring into existence, whatever you're building with this alchemy, is going to be helpful for the universe. Hopefully, it's going to be beneficial for all the spirits that are connecting to your structure and relating with what you're manifesting. And hopefully, it is truly an authentic representation of you. I'm tired of mind-controlled, brainwashed stuff. Everyone in my life is an infinite individual. I will have it no other way. Peace be unto you. Much love forever. I will see you in our next episode, where we will get into, once you have your reason why, if you already have your reason why you love and why you're absolutely alive, you know your feminine reason why is that you're learning about yourself. That's everyone forever on default. But once you have your masculine reason why, once you know why you're building something, once you are actually building something, we will now get into Z, which is a spirit being able to comfortably sleep now that they know why they are building life in a realm where they have to sacrifice their individuality to do so. See you later.